Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. We are back with another edition of Behind the Final Call cover story. Praise due to Allah. Please don't waste your time. Make sure that you invite your friends, your family, whoever you know needs to hear the latest in the news and what's going on from a different perspective than what you're going to hear in the typical news. So, today, of course, we have the latest edition of the Final Call newspaper, cover story, Women in Prison, Suffering and Abuse Behind Bars. This is volume number 41, number 17. The date on the paper is February 1st, 2022. And of course, we have Brother Naba. Brother Naba, why this cover story?
Well, first of all, assalamu alaikum, and glad to be back. And I guess everybody should like and share and follow. I think, Brother Troy, this particular cover story is because we have seen over the years the increasing incarceration of women. And with those increased numbers, of course, leading has been the incarceration of black women. So you've had mass incarceration of black men on one hand, now the over-incarceration of black women on the other. These women are incarcerated, of course, are more likely to have children. And they have been the major caregivers for their children. Beyond that, this piece that we're writing about, which is about the Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Ypsilanti, Michigan, was the site of a protest over the King holiday weekend. And it was to bring attention to, reports of sexual assault and rape, people not being able to get basic food, not being able to do things like take hot showers. I mean, so these are just very inhumane conditions that advocates and activists were exposing at this protest march and demonstration. Also, of course, calling for Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan to address these issues. And so we wanted to highlight this because this is, again, one of those stories that we should never just go away. We should never just let it go away. And certainly there have been other instances of women being abused in prison. And if you read this article by Sister Anissa Muhammad, one of our up-and-coming young writers, really gives you a good breakout in terms of different incidents across the country. So this is not just a problem limited to Michigan. It's literally nationwide. So we wanted to bring attention to it. And just as we said in the headline, quote unquote, trauma in the highest form, the suffering, the culture of abuse, and still harrowing plight of women in prison. So we hope everybody will go to finalcall.com and read, like, subscribe, share. But above all, get information, get knowledge that's being offered so that you have a better idea of what's going on in the world. Because many of us have family members that are incarcerated. So we wanted to bring attention to this problem.
Yes, sir. Praise you to Allah. Thank you. Of course, this is on page 5 of the paper, and we hope that you take the opportunity to go ahead and get your subscription of the paper. Support the brothers that you see out in the community. But get your subscription as well. And of course, I've promoted it before. It's a wonderful thing to be able to have the digital edition. And if you're busy and have a lot going on, you can, as you commuting, you can actually listen to the paper. So please take the opportunity to do that. We definitely know that you will enjoy what you're able to get by doing so. So please take the opportunity to do that. We're going to go ahead and move right on to another powerful article. And of course, that is found on page number 2 of the paper. And that is actually an article dealing with Haiti. And let me go ahead and bring that up and we can jump right in there. So it's 12 years of suffering, 200 years of oppression, proud Haiti's continued quest for self-determination.
Brother Troy, this was really an important story for me in particular. I've been to Haiti maybe 5 times over the years. Um, the first time I went, I was part of a delegation of black journalists, and we were really going to learn about good things that were happening in Haiti at the time. And it was a great trip. Then, shortly after that trip, in 2010, we had this huge earthquake that devastated Haiti. And it's been 12 years now, the 12th anniversary of this horrific event that killed a tremendous amount of people, left a tremendous amount of people without homes, wrecked just a lot of the country. So Haiti is not still 12 years later come back. The people have continued to struggle. They've continued to try to move forward. But billions of dollars literally were pledged that never went to Haiti. Our brothers and sisters from Haiti and our brothers and sisters in the Haitian diaspora have found themselves fighting to actually be able to get funding that's supposed to go to them to actually help them. And so we wanted to update where we are today. But we also needed to understand that this is part of a pattern. Over 200 years since Haiti defeated the French and took her freedom as the first black republic. And so since that time, Haiti was blockaded initially when they defeated the French 200 years ago. Then the U.S. occupied Haiti for a couple decades. So a lot of what we see in terms of the systems, the families, the politics of Haiti, the U.S. has been either directly, overtly involved or covertly involved, trying to dominate Haitian society, control Haitian politics, install, maintain Haitian political leaders. So we wanted to show the U.S. hand in this. We wanted to show the international quote unquote donor agencies their role in this. We got information about USAID, which is the Agency for International Development, and how much money was used that did not go anywhere near the people of Haiti. At one point, I think years ago, there was information that came out that said even though the Red Cross was given literally millions of dollars, that they had built about 6 homes. I remember going back to Haiti after the earthquake and being in a briefing. I went with the Haiti Support Project run by Dr. Ron Daniels of the Institute for the Black World 21st Century, and who's out of New York, also a college professor. Dr. Daniels is basically, and his wife are basically the founders of the Haiti Support Project. And this is a initiative that tries to help the people of Haiti to become more self-determined. So after the earthquake in 2010, we had a delegation of black reporters go back and to report on what was happening in the country. And we were briefed, of course, by American officials because they were intimately involved. And one of the things that I found out, we saw the U.S. military, the army on the ground, doing quote unquote humanitarian work, I guess you would call it, or what we think would be humanitarian work. But what we found out was that for the work that it was doing, the U.S. Army was basically getting a kickback. So the U.S. government is supposed to be supplying aid to Haiti in the middle of this crisis. The Army comes in, which is, of course, an arm of the U.S. government, supposedly to help Haiti. But then the U.S. government pays the Army for some of the work done in Haiti. So this is the type of madness that we see over and over and over again. So we wanted to show that. We also wanted to highlight Haitians speaking for themselves in terms of what needs to happen. Um, we wanted to really lay out different forces. Former President Bill Clinton is said to have profited handsomely by many from being involved in Haiti. Haiti's rice industry was wrecked from imports from America. Haiti's chicken industry was devastated with the import of chickens from America, notably from Arkansas, into the country. So when we look at the plight of Haiti and we look at what seems to be a constant inability to move forward fully, and when we look at the unrest and we look at the instability, it's deeply rooted. And there are people who benefit from that instability and chaos today. If there was no money in Haiti, no one would be in Haiti. But the fact that so many people are there, Haiti at one point was called, and it still probably could be called, the Republic of NGOs, meaning non governmental organizations. So you're talking about nonprofits, you're talking about quote unquote charities. But so much of what the Haitian central government should be doing has been basically farmed out to nonprofits, whether you're talking about the building of houses, whether you're talking about caring for children, which should be under some state institution, in quote unquote orphanages where there have been instances of abuse, whether you're talking about home building, whether you're talking about things like safe drinking water or safe water. The excuse was the Haitian government is corrupt. So we can't give them money. We have to give the money to some other group. And you're talking predominantly white groups because Haitian groups, Haitian American groups, have not been getting funding for the most part, even though many Haitian American organizations, they do things all the time in Haiti, as well as Haitian Americans supporting family members, supporting villages back home. Uh, we've even had Haitian doctors that go on medical missions back to the country. So there's a tremendous amount of resilience. There's a tremendous amount of talent and commitment to Haiti among black folk in America and among Haitian Americans and Haitians in other parts of the diaspora. What hasn't been given is the resource or are the resources promised to Haiti, along with the continued exploitation of the country. So read this story. Let us know what you think. We think it's an important one. We think wherever black folk are fighting for self-determination, anywhere in the world, we need to tell that story. Haiti holds a special place in black history because they were able to defeat their oppressors. And with the initial Haitian Constitution, now remember, Haiti defeats Napoleon's armies at the height of the slave trade. So for this slave revolt to be successful, this sent reverberations around the world because you're talking about what was a global enterprise, which led to the U.S. blockading Haiti, and then Haiti being forced to pay reparations to France. So there's a lot there. Read the article, enjoy it. Let us know what you think.
Praise you to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's interesting. The price the price for freedom, the price for fighting for your liberation is that we're still a fight that's not over, and you can see it by what our Haitian brothers and sisters continue to have to struggle with. And we have, it's so important that we don't see them as separate from ourselves, and that the struggle that our people around the diaspora are going through and are still fighting is still our fight. Want to jump to the article found on page 3, 10,000 fearless men and women, unsung heroes working to make Black communities safe and a decent place to live. And I know you stated in kind of your summary that in 2015, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called for 10,000 fearless to stand between the gangs and the drugs, to work for peace in Black neighborhoods, and to work to make Black communities safe and decent places to live. Can you give us an update on what we
What,
can expect to see in this article?
yeah, what we wanted to do was provide something of an update about this ongoing work. Of course, it's not a finished product yet, but we wanted to show there's a continued effort in about 50 cities now. Probably most successful is Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad in Atlanta, uh, who has been leading in this effort in terms of what they've been able to do in the communities, in terms of community patrols in Atlanta, in particular in a neighborhood called The Bluff. They've also been able to work with the Christian pastor, uh, Reverend McDonald, so that what we have is a concerted effort to take control of our own communities. And I think that what we will find, brothers and sisters, is that when we make concerted effort to independently control our community, you will now get the attention of others who should have been paying attention to you a long time ago. So our ability to organize and move in our own ways, for example, with Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad, who's also a Nation of Islam student regional minister in Atlanta. They've opened businesses, they provide food for people, they've helped people, they help veterans acquire benefits, they're a resource center, they provide direct services, they patrol the community. So these are all different things. They now open businesses. They got a center called the Ark, where basically this is businesses to help continue to develop and grow our community. We believe and we are taught that this is the day of Black universal rights. Well, if it's the day of Black universal rights, and it is, then what we do to benefit ourselves will ultimately be successful because God Himself is behind it. So we are seeing now signs of this in Atlanta and in other cities. It's not fully bloomed yet, it's not fully developed yet, but we're about 7 years in now. So this work is continuing, and you can get involved either individually, your mosque, your church, your organization. Seek out the Muslims in your area, or reach out to Brother Abdul Sharif Muhammad in Atlanta. You can, of course, get him on social media and the 10,000 Fearless. We've also got stuff going, great stuff like in Baltimore, my hometown, with Brother Captain Andrew Muhammad. And again, the Muslims have partnered with the Christians and others. And they're doing community walks to bring about peace. They too have been feeding people during this pandemic. They are now really focusing in on how to kind of blunt these murders. Baltimore last year again had a tremendous year for murders in the city and violence. So they're doing work with young people. They're doing outreach on the street. At times they're feeding people. All of these things work to give our people hope. And we cannot wait for someone else to do for us what we can and must do for ourselves. Down in Texas, you got the 10,000 Fearless First Responders. These are brothers and sisters that are trained in how to deal with emergencies. So for different emergencies, they have gone to these places to help. One of the things that former Congressman Cynthia McKinney said in an article about Haiti is a former U.S. Congressman from Georgia. She said we cannot depend on these relief agencies or emergency agencies to really do the job for us. So we need to create our own entities. This is what's happening. And the 10,000 Fearless Responders in Texas, they also have a farm. So they're going back to the land. And then we got other places, Athens, Georgia, other places around the country. So this is again not a finished product, not a totally developed movement, but a developing movement that's bearing fruit. So it would be great, and what we hope is that people can get the information and then think about, hey, how can I work my own vineyard? How can I work my own neighborhood, my own community, doing things to make it safe and a decent place to live? So we're very proud to be presenting and telling that story. It's a great story.
Praise you to Allah. I think that that is a nice, a beautiful segue into the article that's in the paper that is an excerpt from the message to the black man by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is the unity of 22 million. Can you speak to that?
Well, first of all, when you read the editor's note, you'll see that we now have about 48 million black people in America. So we're almost, well, we're more than double what we were when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote these words. But the things that he talked about, the need for our unity, the need for us to not wantonly criticize one another, the amount of talent and skill that we have even more talent and more skill today. But the wisdom, the guidance, the supreme wisdom, the divine guidance that this man is offering us, we really need to focus in on. We really need to learn the lessons because this man did an incredible work. And we're in an even more dangerous time today. So his words, his way, his instruction is instructive for us. So the unity of the 22 million, now the unity of the 48 million. But definitely read that article. And again, let us know what you think through social media or email.
Thank you, of course, for that. And one of the things, and I've lifted this before, one of the beautiful things about the Final Call newspaper is that the stories are really connected. That, you know, each story is telling its individual story, but when you look at the paper as a whole is giving us a story and giving us a picture. So it's really valuable to not only look at each article, and I know some of us, you know, we have whatever may be our favorite article, and we may read the minister's article and Brother Jabril's article and Mother Tanetta's article, and then we're done. But it's really a beautiful thing when you look at from the cover story and you go through, and there's these connecting components that are definitely present in the paper. And with that said, that takes us to the next article that you'll find that follows the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article, and that is the article from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Black Men Do for Self or Suffer the Consequences.
That just speaks for itself. That just speaks for itself. I mean, honestly, that just speaks for itself. And we should all read the article as the minister breaks down these specifics and the benefits of what we do, of what we get when we do for ourselves, but also what happens, when we fail. But we are already experiencing this right now. Right now. I mean, so again, supreme wisdom, divine guidance. The good thing is that many of our people are putting this thing to work right now. Efforts like the 10,000 Fearless and others, people, even during the pandemic, even though Black businesses have suffered greatly, Black entrepreneurship has also gone up. So even in these troubled times, there are points of light that we can attach ourselves to. And the greater the knowledge that we have, and the greater our unity, i.e. the unity of the 22 million or the 48 million. The 10,000 Fearless. These are Muslims, Christians, and people that may not say, I don't believe in God at all, working together. So there's no exclusive group doing something, at least we're not, the Nation of Islam is not, to the exclusion of others. It's always about reaching out and connecting, because this work is so big that we need all hands on deck. So when the minister talks about do for self or suffer the consequences, we're living that right now. So read it, pay attention, and may Allah bless us all with uh, the light of understanding. So not only will we read, but we will read and then act based on the lessons that we learn.
Praise due to Allah. And I'm actually looking for a flyer, and I'll make sure by inshallah by the end of the program, there's actually a nice program that by Allah's permission will be on this evening, which is Minister Ava's program that she's been focusing on, which Sister Donna and our brother Cartier will be on, and it is dealing with project separation, and it's dealing a little bit about the health industry. So I'll make sure that God willing that I get that up before we close out the program. I know there's a host of other articles that are in the paper this week. Of course, we never, this is just a snapshot of the paper. And don't think that I listen to Behind the Final Call cover story. I don't need to read the paper. This is really to just really hopefully inspire you and motivate you to let you know that you need to be equipped with what's going on, and that when you pick up the paper, you'll definitely, by Allah's permission, get a deeper insight of what's going on. So can you touch on, I know you have your editorial for those who may have been
Absolutely.
watching the series over the past 3 weeks, that
Mm-hmm.
definitely have a different perspective on
Mm-hmm.
Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into
Mm-hmm.
that editorial, please?
Well, I think most of us have at least heard of the story of Emmett Till. Black teenager goes to visit family in Mississippi. He's from Chicago. He goes into a store. There's a white woman in the store. He's accused of saying something or in some way being disrespectful. Later that night, white men come to the home of his uncle in Mississippi. Basically, drag him out. They beat him. They essentially torture him. They shoot him. Then they wrap wire around his neck attached to this huge cotton pad, and they drop him in the Tallahatchie River. His mother, Mrs. Mabley Till Mobley, incredible woman. I've had a chance to meet her. Um, Took the bold, I mean, really courageous step. If you can imagine a mother who loses a 14-year-old son for no reason, and his body, his face was so grossly disfigured. But instead of closing the casket, she opened the casket. Said, "I want the world to see what happened to my son." And so that helped to really spark the modern civil rights movement. Well, we say that yesterday is not just yesterday. So the family has a petition, and you can go to finalcall.com and you can read editorial or reach out to me. We'll make sure you get a link or something to it. But the family members of Emmett Till have now filed another petition. I mean, they rather put out another petition, and they're now calling for the white woman who was in the store, who was said to have been in some way disrespected. The Till family says in 2017, in a new book about the killing of Emmett Till, she retracted what she said, and they say she lied about what she said, and they wanted authorities to come after her. Not late, early last month in December, the U.S. Justice Department said there was nothing they could do. But what the Till family is pointing out, and the Till Legacy Foundation, run by the family, is that state murder charges at the state level, or some kind of investigation at the state level, it's not over. So in the editorial, we call for pursuit of the Emmett Till murder case at the state level. And not only do we call for it, we ask President Biden, where are you on this issue? Vice President Kamala Harris, where are you? Because you can certainly say this case is worth being investigated again. You can certainly say that if there's a chance to get justice, we should get it. Because after Emmett Till was killed, two white men, one, the former husband of the woman, who still lives, and who the Till family says basically lied and should be held accountable in terms of this conspiracy to murder this young black child. right? So the family is saying to state officials, pursue this. They should. And it may be a small step in the process of atonement for this country. But I would humbly say America should take every single step, no matter how tiny, because to kill an innocent black child, which will allow this child to be killed, two white men go on trial, I believe 1955, in Mississippi, all white male jury, they're acquitted, of course. These two men turn around and give an interview and a magazine interview where they literally confessed to murdering a child. What are we going to do? What are we going to call on the president and the vice president to do? We're living at a time of incredible racial hostility in this country. We're living at a time of incredible assaults on black people and black rights in this country. We're living in a time of denial about the reality of black suffering in this country, to the point where you got people that are passing laws where they don't want nothing taught, nothing talked about, that could be seen as being upsetting to white people or white children. So there's a whole effort to turn back everything, any gains that we have made. So this case is an opportunity for America, Mr. Biden in particular, to show, is he any better than past presidents? Is he any better than the founders of this country who are slaves? So read the editorial, and you can find that petition online, and you can decide if you want to support it. I think you should. I think we should. If we don't stand up for the justice for our children, it's not enough to talk about Emmett Till during Black History Month. It's not enough for his mother, who's now deceased, and him to be given some posthumous Congressional Medal of Honor. It's not enough for somebody to give them a stamp. They're worthy of all of that. But at the end of the day, there's still an opportunity to give justice. Some measure of justice. And the question becomes, is that going to happen? But we know that whether white folk act or not, Allah will give us justice. And go back and read the article we read a week ago, about the divine chastisement and punishment that is striking America right now. So as the minister said, in advising this country, do justice while it is still in your hands, because God's justice is working every single solitary day.
Praise to Allah. Thank you, Brother Naba, for that and those reminding words. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that, and I believe it's in Message of the Black Man, that separation is the best or only solution. And the minister expressed that same sentiment in, and I believe it was his article a few weeks ago, and he said, separate or die. And the intensity of the call that we have to do something for ourselves. And it's a blessing that even you can see it in this paper, that is not something we're just talking about, but you can see through many examples that we've seen over the course of the few weeks. And I know there's been coverage, and the way that it's been covered, it's a beautiful thing to have the Final Call newspaper, because no one else is covering and showing what we are doing. Like the Final Call newspaper is. And so, in many instances, we read and we see the news, and it can be quite depressing. But of course, it's important that we are informed. But the beautiful thing about the Final Call newspaper is that we are presented with those things that aren't necessarily the most inspiring and most encouraging, but it's balanced, because it shows a picture of what we are doing and shows that we can do something for ourselves.
And we have to. We have to. So each of these examples, 10,000 Fearless and others that are in the paper, they're examples. They're lights in the midst of darkness. And we can either pick up the example and find a way to do something, and we can walk into the light, or we can keep begging those who hate us to do something for us.
Yes, sir.
I suggest you do whatever you think is intelligent.
And in case you may not know, or you may not have the best thing to do, that's what the Final Call newspaper is designed for. If you don't know what to do, then don't trust those who many of us have been trusting. Trust us, and we're going to tell you what you need to do. Separation is the only solution. And with that, I mentioned the program this evening. I would encourage you to check it out. You can, if you type down or write down the Zoom code, you can see it right there. It's 885-6028-0539. Or you can check it out via the Project Separation YouTube channel. The Project Separation YouTube channel. Please check that out this evening. It's Life and Life More Abundantly, the importance of land and the reemergence of Black-owned clinics and hospitals. Why we are establishing our own healthcare systems. So please make sure you take the opportunity and check that out. So, Brother Nava, I know, of course, we're not going to go through the whole paper. I got to make another call for you to please make sure that you subscribe to the digital edition of the Final Call newspaper. You can see it right there, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Before we jump into a few announcements that we have, is there anything else that we need to make sure that we cover on the Final Call newspaper?
Well, actually, there's in addition to the editorial, I wrote a column this week, a Straight Words column, and it is really a tribute to a brother. It's like a family member of mine, Big Ray, or Raymond Broadway, brother out of Baltimore, 51-year-old father, grandfather, actually the father of two of my niece and my nephew. Shot to death, no reason. A man that had made mistakes as a younger man, came out of the facilities, went straight to work, taking care of his family, taking care of other people, and calling on us to stop killing one another. And so I wrote a piece this week. After we mourn, let's continue the work Big Ray would do. You can get that in the Final Call, but if you go to straightwords.com, my website, I wrote a slightly different tribute to Big Ray. But definitely get this piece that comes out in the Final Call. Spread it. Because essentially what I say is, after we dry our tears, we have to continue to do the work that Ray was involved in. He was raised in Southeast Baltimore in the neighborhood. He never left. He stayed engaged. He took care of his mother. He was actually taking his mom somewhere when somebody rolled up on him and shot him to death. So, these are the times that we live in. But with these challenges, we have to face them. These problems are not going to solve themselves. And you got people like Big Ray in Baltimore and others around the country that have been working in their own way on this problem, and we've lost some of them. So what we should do, we should continue to work in their name, in their spirit. And we should ensure that their deaths, no matter how tragic, will not be in vain, because we will continue the work that needs to be done to make our communities safe, decent, peaceful places to live. So may Allah bless Big Ray and all of those whose life he touched.
Praise due to Allah. Thank you. Beautiful tribute. And of course, we don't want to leave you on that light note or on that heavy note, but just really it's important in this day that we know is written of in Scripture as a great and dreadful day. And many of us have seen in the news publicly, and many of us have experienced personally the loss of life. I just would encourage you, don't suffer in silence. There's many who are going through a lot right now, and things can sometimes appear and feel quite challenging, but know that you're not alone. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out for somebody, talk to somebody, because we can't afford to lose the value of what God has deposited in you. Even though you may not see it, or even though you may not feel it at this point in time in your life, that there's something that a God has presented and provided and put in you, that if you work to develop it, it's not only a blessing to you, but it's a whole blessing to the world. So I encourage you to, man, don't suffer in silence. We can't afford to lose you. Even though you may not see it, we can't afford to lose you.
And this is really the beauty of the work of the Nation of Islam. So we're now doing in-person meetings again, so we can connect with people. Brother Troy every week works on the virtual study group, and we're doing in-person study groups some places now. So you can now connect with like-minded people. You don't have to feel there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. No, absolutely. And so what the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad allow us to do, they inspire us, they fortify us. They give us an understanding of the time and what must be done, and they give us an understanding of our personal power. So we believe in God and we pray to the Supreme Being, but we believe that God is in us. And we believe we have the God-given ability, and we have the God-given right and responsibility to bring the God out of us to right a world that's gone far, far, far too long.
Thank you, Brother Naba. As you see, the Self-Improvement Study Group, I encourage you to check us out. We're there every Friday, 7:30 Central Time. You can get the assignment by going to study.noi.org. Go ahead and check it out right now. It may not be posted on the site right now, but God willing, it will be by the end of the day. But go ahead and check us out at study.noi.org. Get your subscription to the digital edition of the Final Call newspaper. Of course, you want to make sure that you get your edition, the latest edition of the Final Call newspaper, by going to, if in your community, if the brothers are there, please make sure you support them. If not, you can get a physical edition of the paper as well as a digital edition. The digital edition allows you to have the paper read to you. If you're getting a little old and sometimes that writing is a little small for you, you can make the type bigger for yourself. So you can check that out at digital.finalcall.com. We want to make sure that always got to remember that every week we're providing you different insight and different perspectives on what's going on with the coronavirus or COVID-19. So make sure that you always are checking out those articles on depopulation as well as the vaccine. And for more information, you can check that out at noi.org/vaccine. Some things you can do to strengthen your immune system and continue to fight against this virus. Also, before we close out, of course, which one I want to do first? Just real quick, is there anything you can share with us about the next week's issue of the paper?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, we'll take that for this time. But what I want to go back really briefly to something that you lifted earlier, and is that the straight words. Can you tell us a little bit about that as we close out, and how people can support that?
Well, Straight Words is my column. It's also the name of my website. And basically, you can go to straightwords.com. I do a almost daily blog there, or some type of writing or some type of posting that I think is interesting. You can get my book there, which is a pretty fascinating book. This book here, Dope Busters, and it really talks about really solutions that the Muslims offered in the middle of the crack cocaine drug crisis of the 1980s by shutting down one of the largest open-air drug markets on the East Coast that was located in Washington, D.C. Incredible book. You can also contact me there if you'd like to maybe have me speak somewhere or just to connect. But at straightwords.com, definitely go and I would say, look at this book. Black History Month is coming up, and we need real history. We need modern history. This is 1988 or so. It shouldn't be lost. And we need the stories of Black men as heroes and builders instead of destroyers. So all of this is available at straightwords.com. And of course, always go to finalcall.com.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that does it. Another episode of Behind the Final Call Cover Story. Thank you for joining us. Please like and share. If you're not watching this live, why not? Make sure you check us out next week. You can find us around 2:30 Central Standard Time on every Tuesday by Allah's grace and permission. Please continue to support Black businesses, support the Final Call, support yourself by supporting us. Until next time, Behind the Final Call Cover Story.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.